Today's subject is a subject that has left a really heavy feeling on my chest for the past 6 weeks, and I felt compelled to speak about this. And every time I sat down trying to write the episode, I just felt that no, this is inauthentic. This is this is not what I should be writing about or what I could be saying. And I stopped myself, which is why I'm here today. And I decided to share my own personal experience that links with the subject that I want to talk about. But because I will be speaking about my own experiences in this regard as well, for the first time, super publicly, like on a video on YouTube, I will not be doing one episode about this specific subject, but it'll probably be a 4-episode series, if you will. The subject I want to address is homeless mothers and also homeless pregnant women. And it is something that God has told me to speak about. And the more that I wanted to talk about different charities, the more God said, no, wait, don't you remember? And then I dealt with this fear like, well, things are going so well for me right now that I'm scared to speak my truth, because what if my family is embarrassed? No matter what part anyone played in the past, I am in the present, and presently I am doing really well, and it has taken years of struggle to get here. And I was scared that in speaking about what has happened to me, that I would alienate a lot of my family and friends, with them feeling embarrassed. But then after a lot of praying, God told me that I haven't given you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And that if you commit your ways to me, I will lead you. And I am doing this with God's guidance. And I'm doing this because it's my purpose. I'm not doing this to embarrass anyone or to speak out about the truth as part of tea. I am doing this because this is, apart from being a mother and apart from being a follower of Christ, this is my life's purpose. And strangely enough, I've known for more than 8 years what my life's purpose was. And because I was scared that I wouldn't be able to get a job in acting, because somebody that I loved outed me to a certain producer and director for a very big project I was involved with, and that project halted. That instilled such a deep fear in me that I kept quiet. But I've decided that my worth and my talent is not dictated by people's perception of me. I have lived my life, I have value to give, and in me speaking for people that are not currently in the position to speak for themselves, that is an honor for me to do. And I'm going to be the Margaret Burkholz that I am, and I am not going to be silenced because people I love might feel a certain way. I don't need fair-weathered friends, nor do I need fair-weathered family. I love you all unconditionally, and that is what I would love for myself, is for you to love me unconditionally. So let's jump right into this. In 2010, I was also homeless. I was homeless for 8 days in Cape Town during April 2010. And it was a very intense experience. So how does something like that happen? Firstly, this will be a 4-part series. So later I will delve into people that I met during this time and what their journey was like, and the difficulties of being homeless, the preconceived notions people have of the homeless, and how people end up in this situation, etc., etc. But for right now, it's just going to be story time, and I will just be talking about how it transpired, and then in later episodes we'll be delving into how can you help a homeless mother or a pregnant homeless woman, and truly holistically help. So in 2010 I became homeless. I met this great talented musician called Neil in 2007, and he is literally the best guitarist I've ever met. Talented person, and we were together for 4.5 years. We met in 2007, and we were very happy. At the time we met, I was studying journalism, and at the end of my second year, I realized this is not what I want to do. I've always wanted to be an actress, and I decided on doing journalism because my parents said, you know what, acting will not give you money. Here I am now. And journalism is a safer option. So I followed my parents' advice, but I was deeply unhappy. Like, I did not want to be a journalist. What triggered that was there was this girl that was murdered. Her name was Shaldine Himan. And she was raped and murdered, 6-year-old girl. And in your second year, you have to do, you work for this newspaper. It's a community newspaper, and it's part of a subject we all used to have, and you get marks for writing articles. And we had to go and interview her mom. And I went out and I was crying. I couldn't do it. I've always been somebody that feels what other people feel, and the insincerity of asking a mother that just found her 6-year-old in a drain pipe what she felt like, couldn't deal with that. So later on that week, I was called into the dean's office, and he asked me, so what's your vibe? What do you want to do? And I told him that, well, I want to be an entertainment journalist. I didn't want to be a journalist. I've always wanted to be an actress, but I was already there, so that's what I told him. And he said, well, listen, Missy, in your first few years of doing journalism, you are going to be doing only the hectic stuff, like court cases, and most of them are going to deal with really terrible criminal subject matter, so you have to deal with it. And I said, well, that's not me. And he said, well, then you're not a journalist. And I stayed there for about 6 weeks after that, and then I wrote 3 or 4 papers in the exam of the second year, and I left. And I started learning to play guitar and bass guitar, and just following my creative pursuits. And Neil and I were together, and I was happy. And here's the big hoo-ha that I need to out to the world, for everybody to know now. And I have been out of this since 2018, August. But I was an exotic dancer. I was a stripper. So when Neil and I had financial troubles, I was waitering, but then also I went back to Teasers, which was a place that I worked at. And So it was an on and off thing. Like, I'd been trying to get out of stripping for a long time, but the problem with stripping is that once you do it, you don't have a CV. So girls always go back because they don't get jobs. Let me not generalize. 95% of girls don't get long-lasting jobs because of the nature of the business. You not having a CV really is to your detriment. It doesn't matter if you studied, it doesn't matter if you're a quick learner or competent. Many people that hire they're spoiled for choice, so they don't feel that they should really invest in somebody that doesn't have a CV full of references. So long story short, by the way, I am writing a book that will be done at the end of 2021. And I will be speaking about my life in that book. Also, on my acting channel, Margaret Burkholtz, I will be working on some film projects with regard to my life story within the next 18 months. But for this channel and the niche we're in, which is BabyBumpVlog, I will only disclose what is necessary in the storytelling of us talking about homelessness, homeless mothers, and pregnant homeless women. So Neil and I were together, and at that point, I had stopped dancing again. He started working for a place, an establishment, a restaurant, and the owner was in a relationship with family friends of my parents. And one day the owner called in Neil and he's like, oh, in front of everybody, all the staff, everybody. And, oh no, I want to talk to you. Big man. You're so big, man. I hear your girlfriend's a stripper. And that embarrassed Neil a lot. He's an introvert. That's not his vibe. He didn't know me that way. He knew me for me. And it was just such a horrible thing, embarrassing thing to do. First off, like, yeah, not gonna get into that, but it was just a terrible thing of him to do. And it really embarrassed him. He was upset because by that time I'd stopped dancing again. I'd been perpetually trying to better my situation, and it angered my boyfriend because he really did love me. And he was upset. He went home. We spoke about it that night, and 2 days later we were on the bus to Cape Town. He had 13 guitars. We'd sold his guitars. We sold stuff we did all that. Like the next day, he left his job. We left because we were hurt. We were like, why is society like this? Why can people not see other people at face value? And it's difficult to understand when you're not a judgmental person, how other people could be so unnecessarily judgmental, especially when somebody is, busy with something in life. Even if they're not, everybody deserves human dignity. So we were on the bus to Cape Town. We didn't plan that, which was, that was a big, big mistake in our calculation. But I am not angry at myself for that because I realized that we felt a lot of anger and pain. Many people that are homeless run away from home because they don't have support systems. They don't have either loving homes, or if they have loving homes, it's toxic loving homes, or they have a lack of a support system, or even if there are family, they're not supportive of the person, except if the person does what the family want that person to do. And even then, where does that end? Because control is one of those things that it's like money. The more you have, the more you want. The more control people have, the more they want. It's never enough. So you never get to a point of saturation where somebody could be happy with you. And so that is also partially part of the reason, apart from abuse, etc., why people do run away from home. It's not always what people think, that, oh, they're drug addicts or they just don't want to work. So for the first few days we were there, we didn't look for work. We were just like recuperating and thinking about the situation. And we were living in Cape Town. We were living close to the waterfront, actually across the Commodore Hotel. There was a backpackers there, and during the time we were there, they actually closed down for lack of money, but we were living there. And then yeah, it was just an intense experience. After a few days, we started looking for work, and I did have some references for my CV, but just from restaurants. So I went to a lot of restaurants in the waterfront, in Sea Point, in Clifton. There are a few establishments, and in Camps Bay. So Neil was successful. He got a job at Saul's Saloon, which, thank God for that. If it wasn't for that, you'll hear later on why this was such a lifesaver for us. But he did get a job at Saul's Saloon. It's a 24-hour place, restaurant. You can gamble there, etc. And then I got a job nowhere. I looked everywhere and I couldn't find anything. You know what people said? They said stuff like, oh, we're going to give the job to people that actually come from Cape Town. And stuff like that, like, you people just come here to Cape Town for a holiday. Also, some people said this is out of season, can't give you a job now. And other people just said, thank you for your CV, and never called back. So we were staying in the waterfront area, and later we had to move to Sea Point because this backpackers closed down. Yeah, I think let's stop that right here, because as you know, I don't have a ton of memory on this phone. I will be putting up episode 2 of this series, Homeless Mothers, or Pregnant Homeless Women, and just homelessness in general. I will be putting up that tomorrow. But let this simmer in. This is the beginning of the story, and you'll hear tomorrow how it happened. Thank you. Love, growth, baby.